Great, I'm going to start now. Thank you. Perfect. Hi everyone, welcome to my inspirational webinar on how to get the UK Global Talent Visa in Digital Technologies. My name is Michelle Hua, and today I'll be talking about what is a Global Talent Visa, the Stage 1 endorsement application and process. I'll talk about the new guidelines briefly before we welcome Jennifer Bunting, Head of Product Marketing at LinkedIn, and I'll do a Q&A with Jennifer, and also we'll open the floor and give you an opportunity to ask your own questions to Jennifer, and please do, because we are live, and I'd love to have you here to be engaging and ask all your questions you can, so you can learn as much as you can from Jennifer. Just briefly about me, I know some of you have been to my webinars before, but those who haven't, my name is Michelle Hua. I'm Australian Vietnamese. I'm the founder and CEO of Made with Glove. It's a UK wearable tech company designing heated gloves. In 2016, I was endorsed with exceptional talent, and shortly after I became a Tech Nation Visa Ambassador. And that is because back then, I know it wasn't long ago, but not many people knew about the Global Talent Visa, and they asked me to be an ambassador, and I was the ambassador for 2 years, sharing my story and encouraging others to apply. And the great thing about the Global Talent Visa endorsement process is it gives you a route to settlement. So in 2019, so just before lockdown, I got an indefinite leave to remain visa, and then went on to get my British citizenship. The only thing I need to get is a British passport, which I haven't been able to do so because of lockdown. So that's the next step for me. But my immigration journey has ended. So I'm really relieved and thankful for that. I spent 7 years in the UK, based myself in Manchester and Newcastle, and travelled a lot down to London for work. And London is like my second home. Absolutely love London. But Manchester and Newcastle, which is based in the north, has their own tech ecosystem there as well. And everyone is so supportive. It's such a collegial environment, the tech ecosystem. And this is why I've been in the tech sector for so long. Before I quit my job to become a tech entrepreneur, I was a solicitor in Australia. I'm from Perth. So I was a solicitor for about 8 years in Western Australia. I moved to New Zealand. I worked in Melbourne for a few years before moving to the UK. But as I said, I love the tech sector. When I left being a lawyer, I said I could always go back if I didn't enjoy what I did as an entrepreneur, but never looked back, actually. I just love being an entrepreneur in the tech sector. Over the years, I've helped over 250 tech entrepreneurs, senior execs, and tech employees. My success rate for stage 1 endorsement is 80%. My clients received a successful result within 3 to 24 hours, and that's one of my biggest achievements. I absolutely love it when people do submit and get a result pretty quickly, whereas the endorsement rate is 54%. So I hope I'm doing something right and giving applicants a really strong chance of getting the endorsement. My clients have included people who've worked for WhatsApp, Sony, LinkedIn, startups, CTOs, CEOs, UX designers, graduates, digital marketers, product managers and marketers, and business development. So I've seen a number of different applicants go through. Everyone is different, so no two applications are the same. And this is why I love doing what I do, actually, because I learned so much about everyone's roles and skills and what their achievements are. Just a quick disclaimer, this is, I coach and advise on stage 1 endorsements, and I'm not affiliated with the Home Office or Tech Nation. The only way I'm affiliated with Tech Nation is I'm part of the Tech Nation Visa alumni group. For those who have been endorsed and received their visa, we have a community there that we join. So just something that I wanted to share, which could be useful for you for the leadership criteria. This is some things that I've been featured in over the years, which I'm quite proud of. And also this is why Tech Nation really want you to be involved in the tech sector. They want you to add value to the tech ecosystem. So I've written blogs, I've been quoted in books, I've been featured in the Sunday Times. I speak on panels. I've also been featured in TechCrunch, Business Leader. I was also a judge at a virtual IoT hackathon for Media Tech Labs, and that was really exciting, seeing different ideas come through internationally. And also I did get invited to the Booking.com Women in Tech Awards, where they asked me to host a table celebrating women in tech globally. So I invited Susan, who is a Tech Nation Visa alumni, and we invited all the women who received their endorsements and global talent visas. So that's us here. And we had an amazing night there in London. So hopefully they will do that again next year, and I can host a table again and potentially invite you to come along. So how it all started with me in doing what I do now, and that is advising and coaching on the global talent visa endorsement process, it started with one blog. And this is a blog about my own journey because, as I said back then, no one really knew about it. It was so new. I was probably the top 50 who received the endorsement and the visa. So I wrote a blog, and that blog went a bit viral, and that's how a lot of people started contacting me and asking about, you know, my journey and how they can as well. So you can obviously read my blog on my website, and I give a bit of insight about my journey as well. So these are some of my successful recipients over the years. I have written blogs about them as well. So it ranges Christo from South Africa. I've got Jonatas from Brazil, Mofaluke from Nigeria, Diego from Mexico, Jadazola from Nigeria. I've got Daniel from Mexico, Tatiana from Ukraine, Mahmoud, who I interviewed last month from Egypt, Waiting from China, and then Jennifer. So I'll be interviewing her today, and also Katie. Katie was one of my first Inspirational webinar guests, and she's one of my biggest advocates, and please do read her blog and watch her webinar as well. She's got some really good tips and inspiring story there. So these are just some of my successful clients. So just quickly, before we interview Jennifer, just wanted to go through what is the Global Talent Visa. It used to be called the Tier 1 Exceptional Talent Visa, and that's what I got. But then last year, they changed it to the Global Talent Visa, which is really the same thing. It's a special visa that was introduced to allow highly skilled tech entrepreneurs and talent in digital tech the ability to apply for the right to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. So you can be a tech entrepreneur or an employee. It's a two-stage process where you must be endorsed by Tech Nation before you can apply for the visa. And in order to be endorsed by Tech Nation, you have to meet the strict criteria and pass those criteria. It may look like a job application, but when you delve into it and look at the criteria a bit closely, it's more than a job application. And I'll go through quickly the criteria later on. And then if you want to read more about the Tech Nation visa specifically, just Google hashtag Tech Nation visa. Because the Global Talent Visa is an umbrella visa, and there are different endorsing bodies that endorse applicants for different sectors. So Tech Nation endorse those who are in the digital technology sector, but then you've got the Royal Society of Engineering and Academy for Science. They endorse people for research and academia, and then there are other endorsing bodies such as the Arts Council, and they endorse those in the art sector, fashion, architecture, and film and TV. So that's why it's the Global Talent Visa, but then there's the Tech Nation Visa in digital technologies. The benefits of the Global Talent Visa is that it gives you the freedom and flexibility to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. You can apply for indefinite leave to remain and British citizenship. You can also bring your dependents with you, so those under 18. And you can also register a UK limited company. Now, this is quite important, especially for students who are in the UK on a student visa, and I've helped some of them. Their visa restricts them from registering a UK limited company, and especially when they want to start their own startup. So they usually switch over from their student visa to the Global Talent Visa in order to help them grow and scale their startup. startup in the UK. You can also work for a tech company without the need for a company sponsorship. And this is one of the main reasons why a lot of people switch from their own, maybe tier 2 visas over to the global talent. And Jen will go through a little bit more about that later on. And the great thing is the visa is also attached to you. So you don't have to worry about being stuck to one company. With me, I had my startup, obviously, but then I wanted a break from my startup. So I worked for a university, and then I moved over and worked as a community manager for an IoT accelerator. And then I went back to my startup, and my visa wasn't an issue because so long as I had one that was attached to me, it was fine for me to move jobs and to work in different places. The visa is also very cost effective as well. I've had a number of visas in the UK over the years, and they were in the thousands. The Global Talent Visa application fee is in the hundreds. The only thing that is a bit more expensive is the immigration health surcharge fee, but everyone has to pay this fee no matter what visa you're on. So, but the Global Talent Visa application fee itself is in the hundreds, so it's not that expensive. So that's a benefit there. Another benefit of getting the visa, and this is something that a lot of my clients who come back and tell me, is once they get the visa, and if they're an employee, they suddenly can apply. They feel like they have now the confidence to apply for promotions, and they feel empowered to sort of grow their careers even further, because they're not, the visa doesn't restrict them from doing anything that they want to do. So the visa actually gives them so much freedom to do what they want, apply for promotions, apply for a new job, and really start their lives properly in the UK. Just a few stats here. The main people who apply for the visa, and this is what the stats are telling us, it's people from the US, India, Nigeria, Canada, and Russia. But there are 90 plus countries where people are applying from. There's a 54% endorsement rate. So that's really 1 in 2 actually are successful. So this is something that it is quite low, but this is why it's really important to have a look at the criteria and make sure you fulfill the criteria. And this is why I help a lot of my clients with that. And that's why my endorsement rate is 80%. I give you a stronger chance of getting an endorsement. Over the years, since 2014, they've had over 1,700 successful recipients. That's not that many if you think about it, but that was because when I applied, and only up until I think last year or the year before, there was a cap on the amount of endorsements they were able to give. So when I applied, it was only 200 per year that they were able to give. So that's not a lot, and that's why the numbers are quite low. But Boris last year announced that now there are unlimited endorsements, which is great. So anyone who applies and who fulfills a criteria can potentially be endorsed regardless of any cap. So that's a good thing. So I'm hoping that the numbers will increase now. So here's some stats here. I've got some stats from the Tech Nation. You can apply for talent or promise. Those who apply for talent should be more than 5 years in their tech careers, and those who apply for promise should be less than 5 years. So the stats is 68% as opposed to 32% who apply for talent and promise, so more for talent. And then male-female ratio is not great. It's 75-25. And this is why I'm a huge advocate for women in tech. So I help, trying to help a lot more women apply and get endorsed. My success rate for women actually are higher than men. So I don't know why, but that's just the stats at the moment. So I'm hoping that more women who know about that and talk to me, hopefully, and look at the criteria more closely, and then we can get you to putting in a strong application so that you can get endorsed. And as I said, I'm part of the Tech Nation Visa Alumni. It's a group of successful recipients, and we have a Facebook group, a Slack channel, and we get together every month virtually at the moment, and we share stories, and you know, it's a lovely collegial community that we have there. So once you are endorsed and get the visa, you can join our alumni group. So since 2014, when it started, there've been 3,400 applicants, but as I said, there was about 50% success endorsement rates. It's about 1,700 successful. But as you can see, over the years, it has increased in applications, and this is because more ambassadors came on board to share their story. Tech Nation are now promoting it a bit more heavily, and more people are writing blogs. So I was one of the first to write the blog because it was so new back then. But again, if you searched hashtag Tech Nation Visa, you'll find a lot of people writing about it, and it really does help you read their story and get the insights that they provide you, so that you can potentially apply as well. So in 2021, up until I think April is the cutoff. So we have probably another few more weeks to see how many applications have come through in 2020 and 2021, and then it'll start again from April. So we're on track. Everyone is applying, and even COVID, like despite COVID, we've had a number of applications come through. Just quickly, the process. So it's a two-stage process. So the first stage is the endorsement stage, and the second stage, if you are endorsed, it's the Home Office visa application stage. But within stage one, there are two steps. The first step is you pay and register online at the Home Office, and that is £456. And then you've got 15 working days to then upload your documents onto the Tech Nation portal. And then they have 8 weeks in which to respond and to let you know if you're successful or unsuccessful. During COVID, the result has come back a lot quicker. Decisions are coming back within 2 to 3 weeks. So if it's any longer than that, I would encourage you to potentially email them and ask them how your application is going. Just give them a bit of time, probably less than 4 weeks, they should come back to you. If you are successful, you go to stage 2, and that's where you put in your passport and you do your biometrics, and that's £152. Biometrics, I think, is about £19.20. That's when I applied. I think it's the same, I'm not sure. And then the immigration health surcharge is the expensive fee, which is $624 per year of the visa that you're getting. So when I applied, it was $200, then it went to $400, and now it's $624. So, and that's per person. So if you have dependents, they will have to pay that as well. So that is the bigger fee, and that should take about 3 to 8 weeks. It can be a bit longer. I mean, Mahmoud, who I interviewed last month, it took them quite a long time, actually. It took them 3 months for him, but he was applying from Egypt. And he emailed me last week, and he said, Michelle, I finally got my visa. So I think this might be UK, but then again, you've got COVID and lots of delays. So it should take roughly around 3 to 8 weeks. If you are unsuccessful, you can appeal, and there is no fee for appeals. So I highly encourage anyone who is unsuccessful is to have a look at potentially appealing, and I help with appeals as well. You've got 28 calendar days in which to respond to the unsuccessful decision and feedback, and then they have 28 days to come back to you with a decision, and you can only appeal if you feel that the assessor has made a mistake. And that happens. I mean, I've turned around unsuccessful results before. So if you are unsuccessful, you may have to resubmit or go through another visa route. But if your appeal is successful, then you go to stage 2 and go to the Home Office visa application stage. Quickly, just eligibility criteria. You can have a technical or business skill to apply. So just because it is a tech visa, you don't just have to have a technical skill. You can go under a business skill, and I help a lot of people with business skills apply and receive the endorsement. If your skill is not in here, it's not an exhaustive list. So it really is up to you to just pick the one that's closest and then make your case, because Tech Nation know that, you know, the tech sector moves so quickly that not every skill and job is going to be here. So that's a good thing to know. And these are some of the skills and specialisms that's not actually suitable for this visa route. So if you fall in that, unfortunately, a technician have deemed that they're not really looking for people who fall under this category. And the most questions I get is about people who work in consultancies, so those who are technical or management consultants. But I can talk you through that. So if you have any questions, please ask. So you need to, this is like a job application, as I said before, you've got to submit 15 documents and they need to be 3 pages each. So that's like 45 pages. Someone said it's a bit like a PhD of your career, which it kind of is. And, you know, you're looking at, you know, your last 5 to 10 years experience and need to pick the best projects that you feel would be suitable to meet the criteria. So everyone has to provide their CV. And everyone has to write a personal statement. And I like to call it more of a professional statement because obviously it's about your professional career in the tech industry. And then you need to provide 3 letters of recommendation by experts in your field. And these experts need to fulfill the criteria as well set by technicians. So that, again, that's a process in itself. And I help a lot of applicants go through who their experts can be. Then finally, you have to look at the mandatory and qualifying criteria, and you need to produce 10 documents out of that, okay? The criteria is here, but essentially, firstly, you need to decide whether or not you are exceptional talent or exceptional promise, and that's the category. So exceptional talent are those who have more than 5 years in their tech career, and promise is less than 5 years. If you get talent and are endorsed with talent, it means that in 3 years you can apply for your indefinite leave to remain. But if you get promise, you have to wait for 5 years before you get your indefinite leave to remain or apply for. So that's another difference as well. So these are the criteria. The bits in red are the new guidelines from 1st of December. So now you have to prove and fulfill that you are a leader if you're going for talent, or potential leader if you're going for promise. And that's the only mandatory criteria. So everyone has to do this. And then the 4 optional criteria which you can select, and you only need to select 2 out of 4. So you need to show innovation of your projects, proof of recognition for work outside of your immediate occupation that advances the digital tech sector. So these are a bit like volunteer work and community work. Any significant contributions and impact to the product-led digital technology company that you work for. And then finally, if you've got any academic contributions. So those are the main criteria. There's 5 there, and you need to select 3 from the 5. So finally, my top tips, and this is me wearing the recipient hat and also the coach hat, because I applied and I got it, and now I help my clients get their visas or endorsements as well, is to start early. When I applied, I only had 3 months left in the country because I was on another visa that was expiring. So I left it a bit late, and a lot of my clients do as well. So this is why please do start as early as possible, even like 12 months, 18 months before your visa expires. Consider your future plans in the UK, because this is something that you have to state in your personal statement, and your experts need to say this as well. Your network is your net worth, and this is because you're relying on people to help support you in your application. There are experts that you need to call upon, any support people who can write and validate anything that you've done for the digital tech sector. So really have a think about your network. This process is definitely about self-promotion. A lot of people are very uncomfortable about self-promoting, but because this is a merit-based visa, so the assessor really has to look at what you actually do and your work and how you add value to the tech sector. We always talk about teamwork, and that's just the way that our company cultures have kind of told us that, you're part of a team, but this process is about you and what value you're adding to the tech sector. So you just have to forget the we and use the word I a lot. And also prepare to put in the hard work, because, as I said, it's like 45 pages, a PhD of your career, but the rewards are tremendous. The bigger the reward, the bigger the investment required by you. So definitely put in the time, state your case, and make a really strong application. I've had so many clients just rush through and obviously are unsuccessful. But then when they come and work with me, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much work is involved, but I'm so glad, and I can see now where the mistakes were when I applied myself initially to now working with me, because I'm really, really detailed and making sure they fulfill each criteria properly and work with them on that. So finally, I just wanted to let you know I do have office hours every Monday. I provide 15 minutes free discovery call to assess your eligibility and go through any questions you may have. So you can sign up, just go onto my website, and there's a link there for any discovery calls, and just book in a time slot. I also have an ebook as well that you can download on my website. I've got resources there, and also infographics that I created, and all my videos are up there as well. So definitely have a look at my resources page on the website. And then finally, I'd like to introduce Jennifer, and this is what you're all here to meet. And Jennifer is going to come and answer some of your questions. But first, I'm going to introduce Jennifer, and Jennifer has arrived. Thank you, Jennifer.
Hi, Michelle. Hi, everyone.
So lovely to see you. We've been speaking so much ever since you received your visa, and I feel like you're a good friend of mine now, that after we've worked so hard together.
Yeah, I feel like we developed a friendship, and like you were consulting me on my visa, part therapist, part yeah, I'm happy to be here and see you again.
Oh, thank you so much. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Jennifer some questions, and please do, if you've got questions, put it in the Q&A or the chat box. We'll go through it after my questions with Jennifer. I've got 10 questions for her. So Jennifer, if you'd like to share your background, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Sure. So my background, I'm American. I grew up in California, and pretty early on in my life, I started accidentally working in tech. So my role and function is in marketing. And specifically today, I lead product marketing for LinkedIn for Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. And what that means is I work on the ad products. So if you're on LinkedIn and you see ads, that's some of the stuff that me and my team work on. And we work on beta testing, go-to-market plans, adoption plans, promoting things that you can sponsor if you're a marketer and you want to use LinkedIn. But I was doing that before I moved. I was not doing that before I moved to the UK. I started in startups. I wanted to be in advertising. I didn't know that I wanted to be in tech. It's just when I was 19 and in college, university, those were the companies that were struggling with budget and open to hiring a younger person who didn't know marketing very well. So I learned by doing marketing and tech, and kind of grew up in that industry and ended up working for LinkedIn. And then I moved to Australia to help set up the Asia Pacific business. I lived in Sydney for 5 years, and then I moved to the UK on a tier 2 ICT visa, which currently am on. I'm in the stage 2 that Michelle talked about, waiting for the home office and my biometric tests and all that. So hopefully, knock on wood, I don't jinx anything. But I have been approved by Tech Nation. So yeah, I've been here on that visa doing product marketing for LinkedIn.
Wow. So Jennifer really does have such a wide range of international skills. So, you worked in California, then moved to Australia, and now the UK. So you've also had many visas.
Yes. Yeah, I was no stranger to the headache that a visa process could be before I started on this journey with you, Michelle.
Absolutely, yeah, completely understand. I think I'm on 3. I had 3 visas before finishing. So yeah. Anyway, so what made you decide to apply for the global talent visa? Because you were on an ICT visa.
So I was on a tier 2 ICT visa. And if you guys aren't already on that, what that means is, so there are some of the same benefits, but a lot of them not the same for this one. So the same benefits are that a company has sponsored me and I'm able to live and work in the UK with my dependent, which is great, except it's also got some pretty big limitations. So if you are considering that, that's fine. And I accepted this despite advice from peers and colleagues not to. And the reason they said maybe see if there's another visa is because basically if your company is sponsoring you, you can, if I were to leave my employer, LinkedIn, I would have to leave the UK in 30 days, which means my whole life would have to start over. I can't really ever be looking for another job if I wanted to leave LinkedIn, or if someone was approaching me. The other thing is you can't have a side hustle or a gig, and that's part of the fun of tech and entrepreneurship. So you can't do any of that. And on top of that, let's say you're a good writer or you want to be a yoga instructor in your spare time, you can't even get paid for any of that. So it's very limiting. And then the last one is that so it's a tier 2 ICT is a 5-year visa like this one, but at the end of 5 years you have to actually leave the UK for a cooling off period of 12 months. And that's a very long time. I could go anywhere, I guess, but that's a very long time to put your life on hold. So I needed to find a visa that would allow me to have a more full life in the UK.
Wow, that's like, you've given really 3 really good examples as to like the limitations, because you think visa is great, you've got it, but then you're looking forward and thinking, actually, it's not that great if you want to settle and stay, because 5 years, you've built a life in 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I built a life in 2 years and knew I wanted to stay. So I accepted it because that's what my company was able to offer at the time. But very quickly realized I love London and I love being here, and we want to stay for longer. And so we wanted to find another option.
Yeah. And so what research did you do beforehand? So you know, that's what you wanted. You wanted the global talent visa, and research. I mean,
so I guess, well, the best piece of advice before I knew Michelle, the best piece of advice was actually from my manager. And he basically, as someone who's been on visas himself, he's like, Jen, you have to decide what works for your life and what do you want, and then find the visa to match that. So it's like, okay, I want to be able to have a side hustle. I want to not have to worry about a cooling off period. And so then I was like, okay, let me start Google searching this. But I realized on that type of visa, you're also limited what else you can shift over. So my options are actually quite small, but I've done some online research, and then I started talking to my friends. So Michelle's mentioned Katie Carroll. Katie is an amazing colleague and friend of mine. I've known her for years, and I was kind of watching her have to go through this process. And so basically, I learned from you're right, Michelle, your network is your net worth. And I saw, that's such a good quote. I saw Katie struggle. And so I was constantly asking Katie, like, okay, what did you do? What can I learn from you? And then she told me about you, and we had the discovery call, and it was absolutely a no-brainer. Like, I had to work with you. I couldn't do this on my own.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. And that is great. Like, you know, connections put you through to people that you would never think about meeting. I mean, how would we have ever met? Really, without Katie? So we love Katie. And she loves us as well. So that's amazing. And then, so what were your challenges then? You know, you decided you want the visa, then you do the research, and then you go, there are challenges and hesitations as well, because I've been through it. I have many, but I want to hear about your challenges and before, during, after, you know, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Sure. So I guess I was going to say, like, my 2 biggest challenges were due to one reason. And embarrassingly, that reason was myself. So I was my biggest blocker. Looking back on it now, and hindsight being 2020, as they say. So those 2 challenges, and I can go into detail if that's interesting for everybody. But one was around, how did I talk about myself? And I mean, I'm 40 years old. I've got a lot. I've been working in tech and advertising since I'm 19. I thought I knew how to talk about myself. I've gotten some pretty decent jobs and companies. I thought I knew how to do it, but I actually didn't for Tech Nation. And the other one was making the time and making it a priority and just getting it done. So I guess on the one talking about myself, so that I guess other people can understand it, it's that self-confidence in talking about yourself. And when I went into the process, I remember having the discovery call with you, Michelle, and it's like, it's the pronouns and the I and the we. I was like, oh, that's easy. I'm an American. I can talk about myself, but it's actually like, if you have any kind of imposter syndrome, this really strips that away. It's yes, I'm American, but I'm also a woman. And like just the way I think you kind of learn to talk about your accomplishments, maybe, or maybe it's just me, but I just didn't necessarily have the swagger that I needed in order to present myself in a way that shows I am exceptionally talented. I would never use that phrasing to talk about
Exactly. I
myself.
mean, it was called the exceptional talent visa when I applied. So I was like, I'm not exceptionally talented. I just do my work.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like I can do my job.
Yeah.
And then I talked to you, you're like, oh no, you're not exceptional promise, you're exceptional talent. And I was shocked that anyone would
Yeah.
think that. So there's how you talk about yourself. And I guess, and we can talk about this more too, but the way I got over that was because I think most people, regardless of gender, where you're from, you can be your own worst critic. And I needed to elevate myself from the application and from the process. And Michelle will know this. Like there, Michelle is a good coach. There were many times I thought I was done. I'm like, Michelle, here you go, read it. She's like, no, this is not good enough. And so I needed to get out of my own head, make the time to do it, but also think about how I was writing about myself, because it's the way you tell the story about yourself more than even the pronouns. And how do you also explain what you worked on? Like these are tech experts that are looking at your application, but they don't know you and they don't know your job and they don't know your challenges. And so how do you tell a story about that? Because these are also men and women that would probably rather be watching Bridgerton on Netflix instead they're reading. So how can you do it in an interesting way that highlights all their criteria? And I had to think about myself as if I was writing this for a friend and pretend it wasn't me, even though I was saying I. So that's the first one. And the second one was the time. So this is not something that you can do when you have a moment. Otherwise, you will never, ever get it done. And you and I started these conversations a year ago,
Yeah.
right? But I was actually thinking about it even beforehand because I knew I wanted to stay in the UK. So I thought I had all the time in the world, and things happened, which we can probably cover in some of the other questions, but it got to where I needed to get this done from a deadline perspective. And I realized I had made everything else in my life and my career the priority. And everyone's living through this, right, guys? So like, it's a pandemic. We're all working remotely. You're working around the clock. And I just wasn't I was working on other things for LinkedIn at hours that no one should be awake and working. I wasn't working on this visa. So I actually decided to take time off. I used my vacation time and I was like, great, I need to not feel the guilt that I'm working on this when I should be doing something else. So I think I took in total maybe 5 days off. And that was after I'd already been working on it with Michelle for months.
Yeah, but the thing is, as soon as you made that decision and your work actually improved a lot, I could see you were putting in the time and giving me the content I needed to help you through to the next step, because we had steps and milestones that we had to meet and hit targets. And as soon as you realize that, I mean, we moved so quickly after that. Yeah.
Yeah, just that
Yeah.
ability to focus and prioritize and put yourself first. So we talk about this a lot at LinkedIn, but if you think about your life and your time as a jar, you can fill it up with sand, which is all the little things, and it'll be all full, or you can fill it up with rocks. And when you fill it up with rocks, you can still put sand in, but you get your rocks in and
I
you
like
are a
that.
rock.
I like that. That's a really good analogy. Thank you. We'll all take that away.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've talked about your challenges and all your hesitations. Okay, so what criteria did you? Oh, sorry, experts. We'll talk about the experts first before the criteria. Yeah.
So my experts, so of course, like Michelle was advising me, okay, they need to be senior people. So, we're talking director plus, so it needs to be obvious when they see. So your letter of recommendation includes a bit about who they are as a person, plus your technician may check out their LinkedIn profile, et cetera, on these people. So it needed to be someone with a title that instantly showed they were experts. So I went for director plus. It needs to be someone in the tech industry and someone familiar with your work. And that sounds pretty easy until you start thinking about, okay, what are they actually going to say about me? How can they? So we tried, everything was about trying to tell a story of my career, like this dissertation of your career. So what could they say about me? So one of my experts was someone who's like, I've got almost 20 years of experience. So she's that's Tech Nation cares about the most recent stuff, but she was able to talk about my journey, and she'd been my manager twice over the years. She's a director at a tech company, and she's also my mentor. So she knows what my goals are in life and professionally. She was able to write a letter about me and how I've provided leadership, impact, all these things. I also looked at my manager. So he is someone who has been managing me for several years, and he actually was instrumental in making a decision to even move to the UK and be on his team. So he's a director at LinkedIn. So good name companies. That's something else, like companies that these people have worked for or currently work at that help. So my manager was able to talk about what I do, my current role, and about my future. And then I wanted to find someone who I hadn't necessarily worked for, who had never been my manager and didn't work for any company that I ever worked for. So I looked in my network there, and I was gravitating towards industry bodies because I haven't been able to hop around to different companies in the UK, given my visa type. I looked at that industry body. And I think one learning thing to think about is if you don't have someone outside of your current company who would know enough about you and your contributions to write a letter of recommendation, you may need to do some work on what are you doing in the wider community, because this isn't about you're an exceptionally talented person at one company. This is about how you can help the tech industry evolve in the UK. So that's why I went for an industry body person there.
That's really helpful, because the Tech Nation guidelines say that you have to choose 3 different experts from 3 different organizations who can talk about 3 different perspectives of you.
Yeah.
So you've been at LinkedIn for 10 years plus. And so anyone could say, yeah, I'll just choose 3 people from LinkedIn, which you could have, but the guidelines are saying, no, you need 3 different people. So yeah, your network is your net worth. It definitely is.
Yes.
Okay, so your criteria.
My criteria.
Because we went, it was under the old guidelines, but you still picked the leadership criteria, which is mandatory now.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had, I've been in tech and marketing for a long time, so it didn't make sense from what I was going to put on there to go for a promise. So we went for exceptional talent. We went for leadership. That was, of course, required, proof of recognition, innovation, and it was like continuing education, which isn't available now. We could have gone for impact, and we actually
did.
So part of like the journey with Michelle, guys, is like, how do you craft that story? Like, you know your story better than anyone else. She can't write that for you, but she knows what Tech Nation is looking for and can help you tell that story in a way that makes sense for them. So we were going to go with impact. And then remember, like I said, these are humans reading your application, and it made a more interesting story about me as a professional, talking about my journey and some of the educational accomplishments that I had done, because they were a bit unusual, and it just made a nicer story. So I think if I was applying now, I'd go with impact, but like I'd have to find different things to talk about, because while you may have overlaps, you may have an example of innovation that also is leadership. It can't fit into both camps. So you have to pick and choose, and then it completely changes how you talk about that accomplishment and the buzzwords you use and all that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, we went through that. It was an evolving process with yours. And then I remember they changed the guidelines on a certain date. So we really had a deadline to work towards as well. And I think that helped you say, that's it, Michelle, I'm just gonna have to dedicate the right amount of time.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll talk about tips, I guess, too, but I knew from my time in Australia that so much can happen that is out of your control when you start a process like this. So as soon as I knew I wanted to stay in the UK long term, I started researching this and looking into it and thinking about how did I need to show my experience in different ways and be present outside of LinkedIn, my company. So I had a lot of time. And when we started, like, my visa ICT doesn't expire till next year, but it's still taken like a year to do this. But because they changed, everyone's watching the news, governments changed their immigration policy overnight. So when you start this process, I think you need to have in your mind that you're going to act as if the government were to change their guidelines. And I wish I'd done that from the beginning. I would have saved myself a lot of stress at the end of the calendar year when I just wanted to like check out and, eat turkey on video conference with my family. So I say just act as if and get it done as soon as you can.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Now that's because you've come out the other end,
Yeah,
other
I have.
side, like it's the hindsight is a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. Because when you're in it, it's so hard to see the wood from the trees. It really is. I mean, I didn't sleep for 3 months when I did my application, and I was on a 3-month deadline. Like I thought I was going to be deported. Like I thought I had to just go back home. But at the last minute, I got my endorsement and visa. Okay, so we'll talk about the advice. So what are your top 5 tips?
So my top 5 tips, I would say, one is give yourself the time. Because I didn't have the whole, am I going to be deported feeling in the UK, but I made that mistake when I lived in Australia and I needed to get on another visa. And, yeah, that was not pleasant. The other one is, so give yourself the time. I say work with an expert. For myself, like working with you, it was going to be, I knew I needed help. I didn't know what that looked like. And even during this process, a lot of my friends and family, like, how can I help? Let me read it. The reality is all they would have been able to do is check my grammar. Like, they would have been like, this is great.
Yeah.
You need someone who is following this industry and the changes that are happening in real time and that understands what the assessors are looking for. So I would say use an expert. Like, I wouldn't cut my own hair. Why would I do this on my own? And then what was my third one? I had 3 I was going to share with everyone. So time. And then make the time, make yourself a priority. This is a big rock in your life. So just take the time, if you can take the time off from work, or just find ways to set aside time so that you can think about it and not be completely stressed out. The quality of what you put together will be completely different.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Absolutely. And then what are your exciting plans now? I know you're in the stage 2 process and, fingers crossed, but what are your exciting plans now? You've UK is your oyster. You could do anything once you get the visa.
So it's once I get it. So let's hope I get it. I've got my biometrics appointment so that's another thing to think about. If you guys are worried about timing, is like it takes 4 weeks sometimes to get an appointment for this stuff. So I'm waiting for my appointment. Hopefully everything goes well. So you have to think about your future and your plans as part of this process. And so I have a few ideas that I guess I can share with you guys if you're interested. But also, just now that I have it, I found myself thinking, like, is that what I want? Like, I can actually go somewhere else. It's such a liberating feeling to have this visa, or will hopefully have it. So what am I thinking about doing? So I'm really passionate about being more inclusive in tech, gender and racial diversity in tech. So some of the things I want to do is eventually long-term get on a board. There aren't very many women on boards. And I think that increases women, but also what can I do from an allyship perspective, which I'm very passionate about. And in that vein, so this past couple months, I got approved so we have an employee resource group at LinkedIn. If your companies offer that, I think it's wonderful when companies offer these. So I've been looking for a way I can volunteer and help from an allyship perspective and use my skills. And so they were looking for a global marketing and communications person to help with our Asian Alliance ERG. So I started doing that this past few months, which has been it's fun. It's like having another job, but it's actually, it makes you feel good that you can help other people in the company. So.
Oh, that's really good. See, it's like things like this you wouldn't have even thought about doing or thinking about joining a board and the ERG group. And that's just wonderful opportunities that this visa process allows you to do. Think outside of your square in your box. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm so excited for you. I'm really excited to keep following your journey. We're friends now. So I'll keep, pushing maybe.
Please do.
I'll just ask. My job is done.
Just come over and hang out with me, Michelle.
I'd like to do that. That's great. So we've got some questions here. You can either ask questions in the chat or the Q&A. Max has asked, is this recorded? Yes, it is recorded. I will upload it onto my YouTube channel by tomorrow, so you can have a look at that. And I'll also share it on my newsletter tomorrow, so you'll get access to my newsletter. Amush is asking, how do we know the criteria for the experts we need reference from? So it's in the Tech Nation guidelines. So have a look at that. And there's, I've got an educational webinar as well, so you can join that. But yeah, the Tech Nation guidelines are really good. It tells you specifically what criteria the experts, not only you have criteria, the experts have criteria as well. What are the benefits of working in the UK versus the US? So market size, maturity, opportunities. What do you think, Jen? Because
I mean, that's a hard question, because what I found is people on my team here in the UK, and when I was in Australia, people I manage want to move to the US. I'm like, why would you want to do that? It's so amazing here. So I think part of it is grass is greener. I want an adventure. I don't want to live the same place I grew up. And so for me, moving abroad was, I thought, a once in a lifetime opportunity, and now I've had it twice. So part of it was that. But in terms of like career, what you're working on, market size, the US is a bigger market, right? As a single country, but depending on your business line, you may actually be seeing bigger growth in international markets. And the UK is a great hub to be if you're looking across all of EMEA. I think for me and so yeah, well, let me, I guess, look at the question again. So from work, I mean, I grew up in California. I grew up in Silicon Valley in San Jose, which is in the heart of the Valley. I worked at a lot of really small startups. I was lucky to work for LinkedIn. I worked at user-generated content networks, mobile startups. If you are looking to kind of hop around from one company to another, that the Valley is great for that. But I wanted to work for one company ideally. So on this visa that I'm on before I switch over, I'm kind of forced to do that. But I love being in the UK. I think there is, everything is still kind of growing a bit. It's exciting. Also as a I don't know, the person who asked this, I don't know what your field is, but in marketing, I think it's much more interesting to work with multiple markets, because the US market is the way it is. I actually feel that I'm able to be much more global in the way I think, the business strategies I create, the way we go to market, by living in the UK and thinking about basically all the markets except America. So that's why I prefer it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's just different. It's different. Whatever you like. I mean, I have a lot of people who want to go to the US as opposed to people who want to come to the UK. So it's different. Someone's asking, and this is quite interesting, age. A lot of people ask me about age and if age is a factor or a hindrance. But I think this is why they have a category for talent and promise. So they know that if you are over 5 years experience, you're going to be a lot older. So I've had people apply in their 50s, and actually they have a lot of experience to talk about. I think their problem is too much. So I have to help them work out, all their projects and then figure out which is the best top 3 projects that they've worked on. So age is not a barrier. Actually, it might be a benefit for you. So that's fine. And the letter of recommendation from the expert needs to state that they highly support you in your application for endorsement for the Global Talent Visa. It definitely has to say that. Yeah, Sujay saying thank you. Now I'm just going to quickly go to the Q&A because Andrea's asked lots of questions. So 456 is the fee, and you don't get it back if you are unsuccessful. So if you are unsuccessful and you want to resubmit, you have to pay the 456 again, and there's no fee for the appeal. Do you know a list of documents to upload on the Tech Nation portal? So you need to upload your 15 documents. And then they'll ask you like, what criteria are you selecting? And then upload those documents against those criteria. So the Tech Nation portal is really, I think it's quite user friendly actually. isn't it?
I was scared at first, but I
Yeah.
think it's because I was so drained emotionally
Yeah.
going through the process. Like, think about it, you guys are asking for 3 examples of innovation, like trying to get my head around that. I'm like, I'm not Elon Musk. I didn't invent the internet. Once you go, the portal is so user friendly
Yeah.
once you're in there. So just take a breath, have a coffee. It's fine.
Yeah, I usually like to, once you've done it all, just take a day off and then go in, and it should only take about 45 minutes, like maximum. And you can save and come back, so that's fine. You don't need a language certificate, so there's no English requirement at all for this, which is good. No age limit. How long does it take to prepare the 15 documents? I'm laughing because how long is a piece of string? Like it's however long you want. And this is why Jennifer and I are saying prepare early. And my bespoke coaching packages is 8 weeks, because it's 2 documents per week, which will take you 8 weeks. And that is intense. We took a bit longer for Jennifer because there were lots of things going on. And also you've got your job. And that's why Jennifer said, look, I'm going to take a day off and then work on this. So it depends how quick you want to do it. But I think 8 weeks is just right, alongside your full-time job. If you didn't have a full-time job, what do you think, Jennifer? Couple of weeks?
Yeah. I mean, I know some people who have, but they're exhausted. So the more time you can give yourself, the better. It's better to have the conversation with like Michelle early on, and then like you can start working on it. I thought I had loads of time, but I didn't. So I think 8 weeks is perfect.
Yeah.
But
you don't want it any longer, because then, as you say, you get drained and you're like, I just want this over now. I'm sick of talking about myself and writing about myself. And you get fatigued. Trust me, it's like any assignment project that you're working on. Your brain can only hold so much information and so much space. Like, you want your brain to be relaxed, not stressed.
It is really hard, but I'm conscious, like maybe it is kind of, it's just your life. It's a visa. Like it does feel scary, but coming out the other side of it, because you have spent all this time like analyzing your whole career and what you've been working on, it has actually been really helpful in terms of thinking about how do I position myself for promotions, for annual reviews, for applying to mentor other people or get on ERGs, these sorts of things. So you will always have this stuff that you work on for your technician visa, and you can, it's also, I've learned new skills in how I talk about myself professionally. So it is worth it, but it is hard.
Glad. Yeah, it is hard, but it's worth it. Nothing is easy. And if it was, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
Right. And this is why there's a 54% endorsement rate, because people do rush through it. I've got 2 clients at the moment who rushed through it and now have come back and said, I'm really disappointed in myself that I just rushed through it. So Michelle, please help me. So, and that's what I'm doing now. And they can immediately see the difference already. Like, we've only worked on a couple of documents and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much detail I need to put in. And as Jennifer said, this person that's reading your application doesn't know about you. So it's up to you to articulate it in the right way to make them interesting, to make it interesting for them, because they would rather do something else. Right. This is another thing that Jennifer and I talked about, which you haven't mentioned, Jennifer. How important is it to structure your documents in the most appealing way?
I mean, I'm a marketer, so I always, and if I wasn't a marketer and I wasn't in tech, I would want to be JK Rowling or somebody. So your audience is always the most important thing you should be thinking about. And in this case, your audience is an assessor. And so I really wanted to think about, what is this poor person doing during lockdown? Like, having to review these documents. It's incredibly important, because it's the volume of documentation you have to do is a lot, and everything will start to kind of blend together. And what I didn't want to have happen, because I know the importance of graphic design, and there's really simple tricks you can do in your Word docs and in your PowerPoints that it will make it look like just adding a color banner at the top so that it's very clear. Okay, I'm going to use blue for this area and green for this area. even you going through it to read it, it makes it much easier on the eyes. So I was very conscious of that. Also, remember, technology is something like, especially if you're in like an internet technology, you're not working in hardware, this thing doesn't physically exist anywhere. These are concepts. And also in product marketing, which is very, I think, special to tech, but doesn't exist in other industries. But in the UK, in EMEA, there aren't that many product marketers. So I just joined Product Marketing Alliance, which is a newer organization, about 2 or 3 years old, and I'm the London ambassador for that. So I had to explain my role to people who didn't know what a product marketer even is. And so I needed to use graphics and pictures to do that. And so we spent a lot of time thinking about, okay, I've got 3 pages. Can I do an infographic of my career type of thing? Which you don't have to be a design expert to do this. So don't freak out, you guys. Like I used Canva for a lot of stuff, which is a free online design tool. Michelle was even suggesting different tools I could use. In the end, I did it in PowerPoint and would screenshot stuff and add it into a Word doc. But you'll be surprised how much better that looks. And then you're able to go like, oh, this is the career. This is the project. And it contributed to revenue, and it did this and it did that. And if you're right, you will have to take 3 paragraphs to do that when one little square image can show the whole thing. And then you can use that extra space to talk about why this project was important. So the visual element, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Don't overlook it, but I would also just say, don't start with that. Start with your story and write it all out. And then work with Michelle to think about, okay, this is a lot to read and a little confusing. What should that visual be to tell that story?
Yeah, perfect. That's absolutely, like, this is something that I impart to everyone, is make it visually appealing, because someone has to read this. And I've read so many applications that haven't gone through, and I just look at it and there's so much text and I'm thinking, can you just put it in a nice pretty picture, like just to break it up, because there's so many words. So yeah, someone has to read it. So that's really good insights, and I hope that's helped everyone. And we are running out of time. We are a little bit over, but I wanted to see just quickly if anyone's got any more questions. If not, please book in to my discovery calls, and we can have a quick chat on Monday. But I don't have any other questions coming through.
No, there's one. Tej Paul, I hope I've got your name correct. Is the letter of recommendation requirement? Yeah, you have to have 3 letters of recommendation, right?
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay, thank you so much. All right. Well, thank you, Jennifer. I'm so pleased that we got you over the line, and it was such a lovely experience working with you. I really enjoyed it. And, I love working with women in tech, a bit more specifically, but you were such a joy. Like, I know you were stressed, but you managed that and you made it a joy to work with you. So I actually want to come in and work with you, like, on a day-to-day basis, because you inspired me as well, and all your amazing projects. And LinkedIn is so lucky to have you, and London is so lucky to have you.
Thank you. I would be having to move if it wasn't for you, Michelle. So hopefully lockdowns lift and we can meet in person.
Absolutely. I'll be over there. Okay. Sorry, we've got 2 quick messages. Everyone's saying thank you. And if you want to connect with Jennifer, I hope they can on LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely.
Jennifer's very active. So now that you've met her, and this is why I love the live webinars, you've met Jennifer now, you've spoken to her, and she is just so willing to share her knowledge and expertise and insights, and really friendly. So
just drop in the connection request that you're on the webinar, so I know it was you, because sometimes random people and I don't know to say a special hello. So
yes, that's a good tip for LinkedIn, is anytime you're connecting with anyone, write a little note.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, thanks guys. I'm going to say goodbye now. Bye, Jen.